but let me just kind of go back over it. Professor Starks is a professor at Northeastern Illinois University, where he served many, many years. He has written, writes a weekly column in Indigo, the mega paper. He has been an organizer, still is an organizer, active in politics, and one would call him an activist, but with a cause and a mission always. Professor Starks, given that your major discipline is political science, if my memory serves me correctly, we're talking about these topics today, and I just want to make sure that you understand the lineup. One, the new politics, or is it the old politics that is inspired by the Tea Party? And then, of course, let's look at the politics of Occupy Wall Street. Then we'll go from there to the black protest movement of the mid-50s all the way through 1968. And then finally, we want to close out talking about whether or not the president is in trouble, given the fact that he had to drop a portion of the long-term health care program, as you know, this last week. So, Professor, that's kind of where we are. And I had, with my feeble attempt, to try to deal with both the Tea Party and what it stands for, in contrast with Occupy Wall Street. But let's go back to the Tea Party, and I'm interested to understand from you, Professor Starks, what is this Tea Party movement all about? And
Well, the Tea Party, as you know, got its name from the original Tea Party, which occurred in 1763 in Boston when irate colonists threw tea overboard because they were protesting taxation without representation.
right.
So the whites in last year began this whole process of talking about a Tea Party. Actually, it was almost 2 years ago. They came up with the idea of taking that name and again saying in effect that they are being overtaxed by the Obama administration. And they also, in a major illustration was, of course, the health care bill. And however, I think very clearly that there's a great deal of racism in their own precinct. Because one of the things that they're saying is give us our country back, which to me is a code word for the fact that they don't want the president to be in office.
Well, you know what? On that point, I'm sure you know this, but 36% of the members or people who claim that they are affiliated with the Tea Party come from the Deep South. And another interesting statistic is that 26% come from the West, the Southwest, to be exact. So, what do you make of the fact that they are coming from these regions of the country? Are they liberal? Are they conservative? Where would you kind of rate them, just in terms of where they come from?
I think they're probably ultra-conservative, maybe even reactionaries, because that's beyond conservatism. The reactionaries want to take it back to the early 1960s or the 1950s, really. That's basically what they want to do. But in addition, they have been financed by the ultra-rich, like the Koch brothers and Pope and those people who have tagged on to this movement, financing them because they see this as a way of financing their agenda, which is total deregulation, almost zero taxes for the corporations, and slave labor.
Well, Professor Starks, let me ask you a question. The reason I put this question out is this new politics or old politics? This curiously sounds to me like the old Dixiecrat party that were former Democrats that once there was an opportunity to begin to advance the cause of black folk. They formed and bolted the Democratic Party right before, I believe, around the time Lyndon Baines Johnson was the president. Are these really Dixiecrats in disguise?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They are real Dixiecrats that bolted the Democratic Party in 1948, walked out of the convention, and set up a Dixiecrat party presidential candidate, and actually talked about any idea of civil rights. And if you remember, the man who stood up against him was, of course, Hubert Humphrey.
Yes.
And later, Hubert Humphrey came along with Lyndon Johnson to pass most of the legislation in the Congress that resulted in the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1965. So yes, they're very reminiscent of that group. And the other thing, Dr. Leon, that we have to always keep in mind, that the group that broke the back of this movement in the 1960s was black people taking to the streets and pushing the civil rights movement, which was then glommed on by the anti-war movement and Vietnam, the women's liberation movement, and all those other movements, which all together broke the back of the conservatives in the 1960s.
Well, it looks like to me, Professor Starks, it looks like to me that the Dixiecrats have decided to, or the Tea Party has taken up much of the same, as you say, you're saying they've taken up the same kind of an agenda that the Dixiecrats were involved in beginning in 1948, and then ultimately having their backs broken later on in the early 60s. It's just interesting that they also, as you said, they believe that we ought to stop raising taxes. They want to repeal the Barack Obama's health care legislation. They want to close, want to stop out of control spending, and then they want to bring American prosperity back, but they don't have an agenda it seems to do that. So anyway, Professor Starks, this has been very, very good, but I want to make sure that you take a look at now how do you put this Occupy Wall Street, Professor Starks? Put that in some sort of context for us. And I know we've got a couple of callers coming in, and we're going to come to you, but I want to make sure that Professor Starks gets to this Occupy Wall Street issue as well.
Well, I think Occupy Wall Street is the beginning, I hope, of a worldwide movement that will try to break the back of the people like the Koch brothers and others who want to strip the country of labor, who want to ship jobs overseas, who want to, really outlaw unions, all of that, which is, of course, a part of their whole agenda. The other part of that, of course, is the way in which the banking community and the financial community is really putting a noose around the necks of hamstring.
Dr. Starks, I think we've lost Professor Starks. We got to make sure that, but anyway, we're dealing with I'm sure we'll get him right back. We're dealing with the Tea Party and the Occupy Wall Street issue. Freddie, are you there? Freddie, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me, Doctor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was calling, being a graduate over there, and certainly there were some concerns that I have, especially with the Wall Street thing, and then to ask the question I really want to ask
Yeah.
how would he say who's running what?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Just today, the Occupy Wall Street movement broke out in Europe. In Greece, they're beginning to protest about the financial markets and those who are controlling the European market. As you know, they've got that Euro economy going on there. So this movement, while it seems to be small, and Professor Starks couldn't speak to it better than me because he is a political scientist, a real political scientist, and I'm hoping that he's. Are you back, Professor Starks?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah,
You are correct. I mean, it is now a worldwide movement. It is stuck into Europe. It's even on the borders of Asia. And the reason is very simple. The worldwide economy is headquartered in the United States. We're in really a one world economy. So that when the United States economic situation gets shaky, it reverberates around the world. So you have young people in Germany and England who cannot get jobs, who are begging for relief. Remember in Israel, earlier this year you had people camping out in Tel Aviv because of the high rents and the fact that people didn't have jobs in Israel. So this is a worldwide phenomenon that I hope will be solved by this Wall Street movement. And as an answer to the question that was raised by the caller, who's running this, I think the problem is the financiers are running it. The people on Wall Street, the investment bankers, the people who are using all those crazy derivatives.
Oh, you mean who's running the Tea Party, right? Who's running the? Yeah, the question that the caller was who's running, and I guess what she's really saying is that the Tea Party is it the Wall. Who's running the Tea Party? I think that was a real question.
No, Dr. Professor Stark, it's pretty ill. I graduated from Northeastern Illinois University.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we were in like the Black Political Task Force. Do you all still have that?
Yes, we do. And we meet every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, in the basement, so we always do.
Okay. Now, my question was, in terms of from a global perspective, in as much as now, just like you said, starting in Europe, I'm trying to figure out who's really running the whole show. If it's in the United States, and not some of the grassroots, I guess, organizations, but how does that affect us, not only just in America, but I guess throughout the world, with whoever's running?
Well, again, I think the whole thing, the connection between the financiers and the big capitalists, billionaires, and the Tea Party is that they are using the Tea Party as their foot soldiers. For those days, the background of people like Koch, the Koch brothers, Pope, the Brad Foundation people, all of those folks are multi-billionaires who are using the Tea Party as their foot soldiers to get their agenda across. So the only antidote to that is a strong grassroots movement coming out of the Occupy Wall Street people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Professor Starks, the interesting thing about this Occupy Wall Street movement is that it looks like right now that it's leaderless. Can you, is there, and you're not only a political scientist, but you have a contextual framework around the history. Has there been anything like this so-called leaderless movement in your understanding as a student of politics, where you have a movement starting, but it looks as though it has no leader, or are we being not, or is there a leader that we don't know about?
In Occupy Wall Street?
Yes.
There is no clearly identified national leader. There are leaders in each city, and they're usually people like activists from Acorn, the rest of them from Acorn, the people who are from
Okay. All right. Freddie, I'm going to have to let you go. There's another caller. Tommy? Tommy, are you on?
Hey, well, first of all, Dr. Fetty, you know what? Watch this one. How about Occupy Reality? Who gives a damn about who's running what when the bottom line to all of this stuff is that at some point, what do you ask yourself about being broke? I mean, nobody is going to jail. You got a movement. What are they asking for? What are they saying? You talking about a leader? If you're talking about the fact that you're not being led to the poorhouse and stuff, then what is the point? I mean, the bottom line is, it used to say, made in USA. What does an individual get that if an industrial nation no longer makes anything and everything else is being made outside of that industrial nation, but yet they're still selling all the same goods that you used to make yourself in your country at a higher price? What don't you get about the reality that we should have been raising hell a long time ago? I mean, at what point does reality set in, Dr. Bailey? At some point, there are sectors of people that are literally being forced out, homeless, hungry, without health care. Educate you for what? What do you need a job for? Because there ain't no jobs. And we keep talking about that. That's why the job bill didn't go nowhere. You got a country right now that is saying to the American people, hey, guess what? We do not care. Not Republicans, not Democrats, not Tea Parties, not Independents, not the Green Party. And then what makes it even worse, Dr. Finney? Here's the part. When you start talking like this, they call you angry. They call you passionate. But let's deal with some facts here. They have not put nothing on the table since the President of the United States went into office to help the people who need a job. Now,
Okay.
3 years later, and you talk about Occupy Wall Street. You're
Top.
stupid. That's the bottom line to it. Absolutely stupid.
Okay, Tommy, I got you, and we're going to have Professor Starks try to field that question right now. Professor Starks, now what you have, let me kind of set this up a little bit differently, Professor Starks, because what we found, one of my friends went to New York, which is the kind of the incubator of the Occupy Wall Street movement, and did not notice any African Americans in the street to any great degree. And so it appeared that while Occupy Wall Street has emerged and maybe it's leaderless, the question at this particular point is there a connection right now with the African American community, or has the African American community decided to join the protest yet? And I think that's key. I think that's kind of what Tommy's question is about.
I agree. He is correct to an extent. The reality is, we at some point have to marshal our forces in the inner city and across America, Black America, and put together our demands and strike out. And we have to decide whether we want to join Occupy Wall Street or have our own separate kind of demonstration. But at some point, we have to become active. Now, the problem is, Dr. Petty, that when and if we do become active, we will be accused of fighting President Obama.
Okay, hold on now. Hold on, because you've now touched on the third rail, and we've got to go for a break. This is Leon Finney, your host of Another Perspective, and I will be right back with you. Stay with us.
Coming up Tuesday, October 18th, at the WVON Score and Beverly Bank Entrepreneur Series, you'll learn how to use your financial statements to grow your business. Your small business may be worth more than you think. Learn how your financial statements can provide the leverage you need to access capital. On Tuesday, join SCORE counselors for a jam-packed session. More than 40 business owners attended our first session and raved about the quality and content of the information. If you are an entrepreneur who's been in business for more than 2 years and are serious about business growth, simply log on to WVON.com and click the Entrepreneurs banner to register. It's free thanks to our partners at SCORE, Beverly Bank, and Wintrust Financial. Just another way we're keeping you empowered from your entrepreneur's destination station, 1690 WVON.
It's going to be a long night for the students in Dr. Brown's ethics class. They're still here in the library studying for tomorrow's finals. Allstate is helping to make sure that studying, not paying for school, is all they need to worry about. Get any insurance quote now, and Allstate will donate $10 to the Tom Joyner Foundation to support students at historically black colleges and universities. So spread the word. It adds up.
For a participating agent and complete details, visit allstate.com/quotes for education now through December 31st.
Join the conversation and let your voice be heard. Call the Talk of Chicago, WVON, at 773-591-1690.
Hi, this is Leon Finney. We're back with another perspective, and we have on our program today Professor Robert Starks, and we're talking about all things politics. This is the political scientist of the political scientists here in the city of Chicago. He is a professor of political science at Northeastern Illinois University, celebrated for many, many years of working and serving our community and helping to put in context the question of the day. The Tea Party on one side, Occupy Wall Street on another side, the Black civil rights movement on another side, and trying to help us figure out where we are at this particular moment. Professor Starks, you are about to now raise the question of if blacks get involved in a protest movement, it is going to look as though we are protesting the President of the United States of America.
Absolutely, Dr. Finney, and that is one of the fears that many of the leadership is contemplating. And from the Al Sharpton perspective, and that's why Al Sharpton is so insistent on African Americans joining the Occupy Wall Street movement, he wants to use the movement to be a pro-Obama movement. And he thinks by merging the civil rights movement with the Occupy Wall Street movement, he can put it in a positive direction and not allow it to become a whipping boy against the President of the United States. So they see the dilemma there. It's a real serious point of view.
Well, you know, the challenge here, I think, is that you're now talking about, no matter how you look at the Tea Party, Professor Starks, or how you look at Occupy Wall Street, when you start talking about black protests and the civil rights movement that came about or was most pronounced from 1955 all the way through the 60s, you're talking about real black power, because that movement, once it got on track, changed America. And
laid the foundation for Barack Obama to become the President of the United States.
So my point is this, given the issues that I think his name was Tommy raised earlier, how can we stay out of a movement right now? How can we stay out of a protest movement, given the fact that we've got high unemployment, given the fact that we have fewer African-American businesses now than we had 10 years ago, given the fact that many of us are not being able, high school dropout is higher than anybody else's, the poverty rate among African-Americans is second only to the African-American children, second only to the Latinos, given the fact that we're still ill-housed, given the fact that we're the last hired, first fired. I mean, how can we at this particular point not be engaged in a protest movement? Or let me put it this way, at what point do we get angry to the boiling point?
Good point. There's no way possible for us to survive as a group in this country being silent. Because if we maintain that silence that we have maintained up to these last 3 years, we will be totally wiped out. As you just pointed out, the black middle class has been decimated. Absolutely decimated.
Well, and that's a tough week. Well, okay, let me, James, I've got a James on the line. James, are you there?
Yes, how you doing today?
I'm fine, Brother James.
Okay, listen, we do need to get involved in this Wall Street protest. Every American needs to get involved in this, because the way these people are able to
manipulate the stock market and be able to make as much money as they want to is a disgrace. And without people, like you said, the unemployment rate is ridiculous. And just keep hollering about jobs, it's not working. We also have to look at economics for ourselves and our communities. And the situation, I don't see it getting any better. And the president is trying to do whatever he can do, but he's fighting an uphill battle consistently. Because the Republicans said from day one they wasn't going to work with it, and they haven't backed down. And I haven't seen a president in, 30 years that ever said go up on the taxes of the rich.
Okay.
As far as they're concerned, they're going to collaborate together to get him out of office.
Okay. All right, Brother James, thank you so much. I've got another caller. I got to give David a shot. David, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I think the issues are much bigger than one man's job, i.e. the president's job. I think we have to focus on public policy. I think we have to focus on the fact that there was a bailout for Wall Street and Main Street was sold out. And in particular, the African American community. Absolutely, absolutely. 50% of our accumulated wealth was lost in this crash. Precisely. And the president has been trying to triangulate and go down the middle of the road and has been fearful or being political in terms of addressing the issue of the black community. It's incumbent upon the grassroots movement in our community to articulate a public policy agenda that addresses the issues in our community. Obama hasn't done that. Well, he hasn't done that. You are right on the money. The biggest investment on the part of African American families is the home. Am I correct? That's right.
Well,
What one incident happened to wipe that out? Foreclosures. The highest percentage of foreclosures across this country occur in African American communities.
look out now.
Black communities that had bought houses, our grandparents, our parents who bought houses and for years and years have all that wealth wiped out. Do you understand? So we cannot stay silent under those circumstances. It would be foolish for us to stay silent under those circumstances. We got to stand up and fight. But again, when we do, we will be accused as fighting the president of the United States.
Well,
I have to remember that many people feel very sincerely, and that's why they don't want to end up doing anything.
Well, and you know what? I think you've got a good point there. We're going to come back to this, Professor Stark, with wrap up. But I've got another caller coming in. Brother West. West, are you there?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. What we need to do is drill out smart. All we got to do is don't pay Wall Street. Christmas time, make it a black Christmas. Stop spending money. Stop the beat. Everybody that's got bad homes, everybody that's got bad mortgages, don't pay your mortgage. Don't pay your mortgage. Don't pay no income tax. Stop the beat. That's all we got to do. Black people, stop spending money. Don't give these people your money.
Okay. All right. I think we got it, Brother West. Professor Starks, we've got a scant 5 or 6 minutes left, and I think that we've pressed this all the way to the point that it's now what do we do at this particular point, and how do we deal with the President of the United States? He just got jammed by his on a long-term health program. He had to pull it off the table, and of course, the Republican Party were jubilant that a portion of his health care program was not working, so he had to take it off of the overall menu. But the real question, I think, to us is what you have put your finger on. How do we build, or is it important for African Americans to build a protest movement to deal with the issues that affect them, even though we've got a sitting president in office? Is there a way for us to build a movement to protest and to maybe even to give this president some support for his effort. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, that's a real sticky wicket, as the British would say. But I think we can do it. I think what we do is stick on the points. The point is, as you pointed out, we're the highest, we have the highest rate of unemployment. I'll just go down the line and point out that we're not only critiquing the president's performance, we're critiquing the entire government establishment as well as Wall Street. So I think if you keep it in that vein, he cannot say that we're attacking him. We're attacking an establishment that has for 400 years kept African American people in slavery, in bondage, in the worst conditions this country has ever produced. In other words, we go back to Dr. King's point that we have been delivered a check that came back not sufficient funds. So we have to demand that the check be cashed. And that, of course, would include the president, but more importantly, it includes the entire legislative establishment, the Congress, as well as Wall Street, the financiers. And I like what the last caller said about having a boycott at Christmas. We should not feed the beast. I agree 100%.
Well, you know what? When
We will not be taken seriously.
Well, you know what, Professor Starks, here's the deal. We have, in our history, we have been in court with Brown versus Board of Education. We have sat in. We have had freedom rides across the South. We have been involved in voter registration. We have been involved in boycotts. We have been involved in all kinds of campaigns to drive the movement in order to succeed and to get done what we have gotten done. It seems to me that you probably have put your finger on a major portion of that, and that is to stick to the issues. And if we stick to the issues, then let the politics fall where they may. Stick to the issues. If your people are hungry, you've got to say our people are hungry. Am I right? But let me ask you a question before we go. What about this Herman Cain factor? He's a black running as a Republican. Do we let the Republican Party off the hook? Is there something that we need to say to them?
No, you do not. Just remember one thing. You are a minister, so you will understand this line. Cain is not able. The reality is, Herman Cain is mouthing the platitudes of the most racist white people in this country, the Tea Party groups. He's doing it because they feel good by having a black man say what they cannot say publicly. Can you imagine that? Now, the reality is, Dr. Benny, he is not running for president, he's running for the vice presidential spot on the ticket. And that's what he's been running for all the time. He's the flavor of the week. And if the heads of the Republican Party really sit down and think about it, he would be an excellent opponent for a ticket headed up by a black man, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. So he would then be the antidote, just as Mr. Steele was the antidote to him by being appointed the head of the Republican National Committee. So you see, all of this is coming to a head. So then, ahead of the ticket of presumably Mitt Romney won't have to say anything about black people.
Mm-hmm.
He can give it to his attack dog, Mr. Cain. Mr. Cain can become the attack dog on black people and poor people. Because remember what he said? Tell those folks at Occupy Wall Street to go hands down.
Did he say that? Well, listen, you know what, Professor Starks, it's always a pleasure talking to you, but we've just flat out of time. And for those of you in the listening audience, it's been a pleasure to serve you and to be with you this day. This is Leon Finney, your host of Another Perspective, giving you another episode of our take on the issues of the day. Be with us next week, same time, same station.